Welcome to Game Crunch, your weekly video game podcast. My name is Mike Anastasia. With me today we have Brandon.
Hi.
We're here to talk about games and things.
Games and things.
What's on the agenda today? Pikmin 4 demo.
Yeah.
That's You got your AEW game, finally.
I did.
Whatever a Brotato is.
After 3 years.
After 3 years, finally here.
Mm-hmm.
So, everything looks... Lots of exciting new things to talk about this week for a change.
Yeah.
Although I feel like actually we've not had that many unfew new weeks lately.
I feel like this last month or so has been pretty eventful. So we had Diablo, we had
Final Fantasy. Yeah,
we've had a lot of. We had Street Fighter 6.
We had the Nintendo Direct with those news and those drops. Then
we had all of the conferences, all of them.
Oh yeah.
So
it's been a busy month.
This has been a busy month, which has just ended.
Yeah, because I guess it's July now.
Yeah,
July has not been a busy month.
Yeah, July has been a whole lot of nothing.
Yeah.
In fact, July is a whole lot of nothing. I look at games coming out in July, and I'm like, there's nothing I want here.
Well, there is one good one. Well, you might not want it. I want it, and I'm going to talk about it today.
Go ahead.
4. Yeah,
go ahead.
Pikmin 4. Pikmin 4 is coming out.
Get
it's
over
a good
there.
segue.
Get that segue.
Yeah. So Pikmin 4 is coming out this month. They put out a demo for it today, and oh man, this game is drastically. How do I put it? I don't know if improves the right word. It probably is, but there's a lot of quality of life changes to this game over the last two games.
Okay.
So Pikmin, it's kind of like a real time strategy. You get a bunch of little Pikmin. They all have kind of different abilities. So it's about micromanaging and sorting and all that kind of stuff. So they put out a demo this week, and it's one of those nice demos that we've been seeing a lot of, and we've been talking very lovingly about recently, where they do. It's like the beginning of the game, and you can roll over your progress.
Hey,
yeah.
I feel like Capcom started that shit, and it's just not Capcom, but Square Enix started that shit, and it's just moving on along to everyone else, and I'm very happy about it.
Yeah, Nintendo's done it a few times lately. Over the last couple of years, I can think of the first one.
Like in Octopath Traveler 2, and Triangle Strategy, and Live Alive. All of those are made by Square Enix.
Well, I mean, Nintendo's had their own. No, Nintendo's had their own, though. What did they do? They did it with... what was that game called? Oh, man, you're going to make me look it up, because it was a couple of years ago.
I am, because I don't know what it is.
No, it's the one where you have, it's made by the oh my, I can't even think of the game of the previous one. What was it? Where's my games of the year list?
Oh, it was a game of the year.
No, it wasn't a game of the year, but it's my list where I keep all the games.
Ah, okay.
How do I search on this thing? Games.
I don't know. Just type in games and hope for the best. Oh god, I didn't find it.
I think it was 2021. Let me look.
Okay.
I
can't wait until we find out it's actually also made by Square Enix.
No, I know, definitely. Miitopia. That's the game I was thinking of.
Okay.
Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity also had a demo that carried over into the full game.
Okay.
Fire Emblem, the Warriors game.
Oh, yeah, it did, didn't it? Yeah.
I remember those ones, so...
Yep.
Like I said, Nintendo's been doing it for a while, too. Maybe not as long as Square Enix has, but I feel like at least they've done it enough times that it's kind of
They have.
It's not a one-off,
I just feel like Square Enix is always doing it. Every demo they release, it's carries over to the next game, to the game. Every demo. Did it with Final Fantasy 16, they did it with Octopath Traveler 2, they did it with Live Alive. They did it with they just did it with so much stuff.
They're definitely more consistent with it now than I think they even had ever been. And it's great. So there, like I said, there have been these demos of these things, so it's nice to have it. And that's how it is with Pikmin 4.
All right, let me stop you for 1 second.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'll give it to you. All right, so I haven't played Pikmin 2 or 3.
Okay,
and I barely played 1. I finished it, but it was a one and done sort of deal, and it didn't really gel with me that much. The original one did. This game.
Yeah.
I skipped 2, I skipped 3, I played the demo of this. Am I going to be missing anything?
No.
Cool.
Not at all. So it starts out with kind of like an intro tutorial chapter, which I think fills you in on all the story that you need to know, which isn't much. The stories of the Pikmin games, for the most part, have been pretty lackluster. We talked about 1 and 2 last week. 1 is Olimar crashes on, a planet and the ship falls apart and you got to use the Pikmin to get pieces. Yep, definitely Earth.
It's 100% Earth. I mean, we had Duracell batteries originally in the game.
Yeah. And then Pikmin 2, he goes back to the same planet and it's like, hey, there's all these treasures there. Well, go back because our company's in debt since you've been out of action for who knows how long, months, whatever. So we need you to go back and get some money so we can, pull this company back together. So this one starts out strangely and maybe giving credence to that kind of fan theory that we talked about last week, that maybe this is some weird spin-off of 1 with maybe with the bad ending. Because it starts out with, so what happens, that the kind of tutorial chapter before the demo is you're playing as Olimar and you crash landed on a strange planet and your ship fell to pieces and you're collecting those pieces, and at the end of the demo you collect an SOS to send it out for help. And that's where, well, not the end of the demo, the end of that tutorial piece of the demo. And then that's where that ends. And next thing you know, you're playing as part of the rescue crew going to save Olimar, and because you received his SOS. So, don't know what happened to Olimar. Because the Pikmin are kind of like unknown, the way the game kind of addresses it is like, oh, we're reading about these things for the first time, and Olimar's SOS kind of makes you think that this is treating itself as like a sequel to 1, where Olimar doesn't make it off the planet, as opposed to, an actual like continuing story. Is it necessarily the same? I don't know. Could be a different Earth. Not sure. Still don't know enough from the demo to really discern that. But there is also, like we said last week in the video that Nintendo showed off, a very Olimar-looking person that is on that planet that kind of has that leaf sticking out of his head, like he did in the band ending of Pikmin 1. So, could be. But the moral of the story is, all the story you need to know is in this game. So, Olimar has crash landed on a planet, you were part of the rescue team, and you were going to save him. That is all you need to know. That's the only real story that there is. So, and as you go through, there are, like, you'll kind of get bits and pieces of, like, Olimar's log when you find things. It's not really about anything that's happened in, like, past games or anything. It's kind of like, oh, man, look at these yellow Pikmin. They have big ears, and they like to be thrown far distances. Like, like, just kind of useful little kind of information like that. So it's got enough tidbits to kind of like help you through it and, just kind of work things out. Also, too, I would say based on the demo, things are broken up a bit better so you can learn them more incrementally. Not everything's thrown at you at once. It's not like all of a sudden you're like, hey, you've been on this planet for 4 times, so here's everything that you had before and start over from scratch.
Okay.
It's like, oh no, because you're part of the rescue crew, you haven't had these things before, so they got to introduce them all incrementally and kind of get you into it. I think the game does a good job of that. And also, as part of this rescue crew, you get a rescue dog. I think his name is Ochi, and he does new things, so you can like ride on him now, and so can your Pikmin, which gives you some new abilities that you didn't have before. Like you can run into enemies and launch the Pikmin that are riding on the dog onto the enemy, or you can use the dog to help you fetch things. And you can control the dog separately as kind of like a partner character. He doesn't have the full abilities that you do, but, you can kind of split up and do different things. That's kind of cool. So that's kind of one new aspect of this game that does kind of mix things up a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, so you got that. I would say, and the demo also has some other kind of nice quality of life things too. It's got like lock-on abilities, so you're not fucking around trying to...
Oh, that's smart. Yeah, that's very good.
Yeah, throw Pikmin and the camera's turning around and you don't know which way the Pikmin's going. Well, now it locks onto the enemies. It does make some enemies easier to kill. So that is kind of, take it or leave it kind of thing. But it does also make a lot of the camera and management a bit easier as well. So there's that. I think that's pretty cool. The game opens up and you get basically... What is it you go through in terms of the demo? The demo has that tutorial chapter where you play as Olimar, and then it goes into kind of like another introduction area where it kind of introduces you to more of like the dog mechanics and kind of some of the the world building mechanics on the smaller level.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last part of this demo is a full area. The first full area of the game is completely opened up to you. So you get to kind of explore with that. They give you a few different types of Pikmin that are able to be found during the course of this first area. You're able to collect items. That is another nice thing about this one. Pikmin 1, you were collecting ship parts. Pikmin 2, you were collecting all those kind of cool things like Duracell batteries and just kind of different Earth items that you recognize. And they were like treasures, and they gave them names and kind of like marketing stuff or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was always pretty cool. And then Pikmin 3, you're getting fruit for juice, which is kind of boring. This one, you're back to collecting Earth trinkets again. And you're using them to fuel your ship, because I guess you melt them down into, I don't know, they gave it some dumb name like Sparklium, which I actually think might be the actual name. And you use that to power your ship, and that kind of helps you boost things out. So you get that. And that, as you collect more, you can, that's kind of boosts the range of your ship. It helps you find new things. So other things that are interesting in this, so you're part of this rescue crew, but this rescue crew before you, because you're like the second ship of the rescue crew, of just yourself, ship before you, the rescue crew, had 7 people on it, and they crash landed. You also have to rescue them, and they're all spread around. And so as you go through the demo and you're like rescuing people, you find someone, and they're like, hey, he's not part of the rescue crew, and he's also not Olimar. Basically, who the hell are you? And he's like, oh, I'm just like a treasure hunter, and I saw Captain Olimar's SOS, so I came to the planet. Well, it turns out a lot of people saw Captain Olimar's SOS and rushed to the planet just for fun. So now you have to rescue all these random civilians that you're finding as well. So you got those kind of things going on. The rescue crew people that you find, they give you different abilities. We kind of talked about how there's kind of a chain, like an upgrade, kind of like a skill tree in Pikmin 4 that was never there before. And that's kind of what the rescue team members that you rescue offer you. Like you can go to them and they'll be like, hey, you got some of this resource. Do you want to use this to upgrade these kind of abilities? And some of the abilities that they have is like, immunity to fire damage, or, reduced kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Maybe like increased movement, like those kind of things. So it kind of, you get to spend your resources that you're collecting on kind of making your character better. You have these kind of skill trees. Ochi has a skill tree. There is just kind of like general kind of research things that are just kind of more about the progress and kind of development of, your rescue team skills overall that you can research. So there's lots of unlockable things as you go along. And then also returning in this game too, I don't remember if they were in Pikmin 3, honestly. They probably were, but there's kind of those dungeons are back where you kind of go down to the ground with multiple floors, and you're exploring through trying to find more treasures and rescue more team members that way. So you have all that kind of stuff going on. It really seems like it took what was, I think my best comparison to this is it's like they took Pikmin 2, which I think was easily the best of the 3 games, and just built on it in every way possible. So there's a lot of great stuff going on here. The only complaint I would have, and it's not enough that I would take anything away from this game yet beforehand, but I would say the demo does not really have much difficulty in it, which is fair, I feel. When you're talking demos, you want it to be as approachable to as many people as possible. And having Pikmin at its full force during the course of the demo would probably be off-putting to people that have never played the series before. So they did not do that. Granted, you're only playing the introduction area. So, and half of this introduction area is specifically tutorial levels. So not a surprise there. But I lost very, 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 very few Pikmin during the course of this demo. And I would say it's kind of, as a different difficulty than what I would say, having also played, well, I guess concurrently playing Pikmin 2, which is arguably a much, 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 much more difficult game in some areas. But I'm playing Pikmin 2 on much harder levels and much further into game. I'm kind of at the end game of Pikmin 2, and whereas the introduction levels of all the Pikmin games areas are generally fairly easy. So it's definitely not enough for me to rule in favor that this is going to be an easy game versus the previous ones.
Yeah.
So, but it's exceptionally good. I am very impressed with how good it is. It looks great. It feels great. It plays great. It controls great. Aside from like the light difficulty in this intro area, I really don't have any complaints. I like the new mechanics that they put in it. I think they're excellent. I think there's some great quality of life stuff. And they really, what is the thing that they call it? Oh, no, I've heard it so many times, and they talked about it in the Nintendo Direct, too. That whole kind of concept of just kind of, it's like a Japanese concept, basically about organization. And, that's kind of where they're focusing a lot of their things on. Like, just making sure that you're optimizing your time as best as possible. Because that is always kind of one of the driving things with Pikmin. You have, a certain amount of time to do things. You only have a course of the day at the end of the day, and if you don't make it back to your base, you're kind of SOL. Not you in particular, but any Pikmin that aren't with you. You have to bring them back with you, or they get eaten by the monsters at night. And they do a good job, actually, in this one. One other really nice feature, which I always kind of wish they had in the past, was they have areas drawn out around the kind of encampment once you get to that time at the end of the day. And it's like your Pikmin that are not with you need to be in this circle or they're dead. Instead of kind of guessing where's safe and where's not safe, it spells it out now. Now you know for sure. It's like this circle is safe. Actually, also, one other thing that I think is really great about this, too, there are some more, speaking of quality of life things, so a couple extra things. You can move your base around, like your onion and your rocket ship around. There are certain points in the in the map as you go through to kind of have them move there to make it more accessible for what you're trying to do, speed things up, which is excellent. Another thing that I think is really nice, either at the beginning of the stage or when you go into one of those kind of underground dungeons, it gives you recommendations on which Pikmin to bring along with you. It'd be like, hey, you're capped at... Oh, and also it starts you out with a lower cap of Pikmin, and you have to earn your way back up to 100. So in this game, I think it starts with like maybe 20 Pikmin allowed out in the field at a time, and you like unlock more as you go through. I think I got up to 30 or 40 during the progress of this. But anyways, so as you go into like one of those like underground dungeons, it'll be like, hey, you can bring 30 Pikmin with you. We recommend bringing 20 fire and like 10 ice Pikmin or something, whatever. And you can just rearrange them on the fly with you right there. You don't have to go back to the onion to change out the Pikmin to bring them back. You don't necessarily have to follow the recommendations either. Just kind of gives you a recommendation based on what's down there. So you're not like, it says that I need fire poke. Like in Pikmin 2, it's like it'll just kind of give you an icon. It'll just say fire. And it's like, well, I don't really know what to bring with me. Like it says just fire, but maybe there's some other stuff there. Or maybe there's some objects hidden underground and I need some of the white Pikmin with me so I can find hidden items. You don't know. This one just gives you some recommendations, which is very helpful. So,
okay.
And then I think there's co-op available at all times through the single player. There's a competitive kind of multiplayer thing as well. You got a lot going on. It seems like it's a very fully featured game with a lot to offer. At least that's how I feel by the demo. Obviously, I have not played the full game. Don't know for sure. But I would say I'm fairly optimistic from what I played so far. And depending on what's there, I mean, at least has kind of from the outset, a semblance of maybe like a really great Pikmin. So, yeah, very excited. Did you have any other questions on it?
No, not really.
I know I just kind of like ranted on Pikmin for a while.
That's fine. I'll talk about my stuff for a while as well, so it's all good. And I got some other stuff to talk about too.
Yeah. But Pikmin, very exciting. I was very happy with it. So there's that. Also, just kind of like other kind of updates since last week. We talked about it last week. So I decided to, after the episode last week, I ordered those new joysticks for the Joy-Cons.
Okay.
The Hall joysticks. So basically, instead of using, like the current Joy-Cons, they use kind of a physical mechanism for movement, and that's why you get the drift. It wears down, and so it's more prone to drift as it wears down, and gunk gets sucked in there, and whatever. Yeah. So the Hall joysticks, which are not new technology, apparently old Sega controllers used them before as well. Like it's been around for decades at this point. They use, I think it's like a magnetic kind of electromagnetic fields, basically, to kind of determine positioning. So I bought new sets of those for both of my Joy-Cons. Since we talked about it last week, so I'm like, you know what, fuck it. These Joy-Cons aren't great that I have. I might as well try replacing the joysticks, and if it works, great. If it doesn't work, I had 2 sets of shitty Joy-Cons anyways, so I'm not really out anything except the price of the new joysticks or whatever. So I ordered a set. There's a kit that came with the tools and 2 sets of Joy-Cons for, I think it was $50. So I was like, okay, I'll do it. So I ordered them and I used the tools. So just a couple notes. Changing out Joy-Con sticks is annoying. It's very annoying. But it's not. Once I did the first one, the rest of them were much easier. Because I'm like, okay, I get how this works. You kind of get how things fold in a certain way, things move in a certain way. And kind of once you understand how that works, it gets a little bit easier. I did on both of my right Joy-Cons. So I had an issue with both. Another reason I was kind of more prone to do this too, I had an issue with both of my right Joy-Cons, where the SL, SR, and sync buttons didn't work on the side. You know, when you turn it sideways, you kind of have those new kind of funky SL, SR buttons.
Okay, all right, I'm listening.
Do you know what I'm talking about? Can you visualize
Sort
it?
Sort of.
Yeah, so if you're doing a single Joy-Con like you're playing Mario Kart, just on one Joy-Con, you turn it sideways on the top, on the flat part. You got a tiny button for SL and SR up there.
Yeah. No, I see what you're talking about. Yes, I see them.
Yeah, and there's
I take my Joy-Cons out to see for myself.
Yeah,
I forgot about those 2 tiny little buttons.
Yeah, and there's a little light bar up there that lights up too when you kind of go to turn the Joy-Con on. Well, I noticed. One set was recently. The other one's maybe like a year or so ago. Then when I went to turn on the right Joy-Con, the lights wouldn't light up, and I was like, "That's kind of weird." Whatever. Joy-Con still worked if I was using it, vertically.
Yeah.
But if I was using it horizontally, those buttons at the top didn't work, and I'm like, "That's weird." Whatever. Well, come to find out, it's because the cable inside just basically got damaged so much that it does it. It's kind of a added to the list of Joy-Con manufacturing defects. So as I went to go replace my Joy-Con thumbsticks, I was like, oh, maybe I can straighten this out and fix it too. Well, I managed to break not one, but both of them in both my right Joy-Cons. And I was like, fuck, well, I'll fix both of them then. So then I ordered that replacement cable. It was actually super easy to fix. Surprised. It was just kind of frustrating. And funny enough, even when it was broken, the Joy-Cons still work vertically just fine. And horizontally, it was just as broken as before. So it's not like it really changed anything, but I'm neurotic. I had to do it. So
no, I understand. I would have been like the same thing, basically.
Yeah. And so I ordered both of those, switched those in and out. It's annoying because you have to disassemble like half the Joy-Cons to fix that cable. But then once you're in, and it's not too bad. But overall, the Joy-Cons work really well, so that's a plus. They feel very similar to the original ones. Honestly, I couldn't tell you the difference if I didn't know that they were there. But they feel, the big difference is though, they don't drift. So
that's a big difference.
That is a big difference. I said they feel really nice. I have no complaints about them. I tried out both of them, all the different ways, because I had to try out, vertically to make sure they were working with that. I tried horizontally, make sure they were working with the new strips. Everything worked really well. So
I really need to replace the 3 pair I have that are broken. I have 3 pairs that are completely because of Joy-Con drift. Nothing else is broken. Just Joy-Con drift.
Just Joy-Con drift?
Yeah.
Yeah. I would say, honestly, at least in my experience, like I said, the first one was frustrating, and it really tested my patience. But after that, once I kind of got used to, because the hardest part is getting because when you pull out the ribbon strips and you're getting them back in and to lock into place, that can be a bit of precision, especially since you're using like tweezers in like a small area.
Yeah.
But once you get used to how that is, like by the time I went through and replaced like the last Joy-Con, I think my last one took me maybe like 5 minutes. The first one took me an hour.
Oh wow! Okay.
Yeah, like once you get used to it, and there's differences, a little bit of differences between the left and the right ones that kind of threw me off. Like the left one, you have to disconnect an extra ribbon and replace it back once you're done because it overlaps over the Joy-Con.
Okay.
So that was kind of like, oh, that's annoying. And they put the ribbon in an annoying spot. Like if they moved it a little bit further over, you could have probably just slipped it out, but it goes right over the screw for it. So you have to disconnect it, pull it out, put it in the other one, then do that, then lock the other one back into place. So that's that. But I thought it went pretty well. I said they all work really well. I'm very happy with how they turned out. They feel really well. Mm-hmm. And I'm glad that I got what is presumably a more permanent fix for it, so I don't have to worry about them again. So I'd say overall, pretty happy with it. And it was worth the, probably an hour and a half I spent replacing 4 Joy-Con thumbsticks. So, yeah, I would do it again. Not looking forward to doing it, but those tools that like I said, I got them on Amazon, and it came with the toolkit, and I went with one that had 4 Joy-Cons in it, and all together with the tools and the Joy-Con thumbsticks, it was $40. $40?
That's nice. That's actually very nice.
So yeah, it was really good, and I said it worked really well. They feel like the original ones. They look like the original ones. That would be kind of my other kind of turn off if they were like weirdly different. Like I don't like them to feel different or be noticeably different. They look the same. So, and then once you're done, once you get them in, just kind of, I guess, pro tip in case someone buys them and doesn't know this, you have to recalibrate them in the system afterwards. Because when you boot it up, they'll be a little off. Recalibrate it. They'll be recentered, and then you'll be fine. You won't have any more issues with it. So, yeah. And that was my Joy-Con adventure. I did not, because I think Nick did this. I think it was with a Joy-Con. Maybe you remember the story. I don't, and I'm just misremembering.
But I think and flew across the fucking room. That one?
Yeah, that's the one I was talking about. Yeah. Did not have that issue, so I don't know how we did it. I was so worried about it. I like took apart the Joy-Con controller inside like the box of like a board game, like the top box of a board game controller. So if it launched off, it would launch inside the box. I didn't find anything that looked like it was launching anywhere. So I don't know what he did, but I did not have that issue. So, yeah, it's not as scary as Nick made it sound. I think that story had me more worried than anything else. So I was like, oh no, I don't want to lose a spring because then I'll be like, what am I going to do? I didn't have it. I didn't find anything that looked like it was going to launch at all. So I'm not sure what he did. So I don't know. Yeah, Joy-Con replacement, good times. Try it out if you're feeling adventurous. Like I said, it does require patience and kind of a steady hand, but
yeah.
But that's all I have for now.
All right, let's head over to me then.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna talk about. Should I talk about the indie game first, or should I talk about the not indie game?
Talk about Brotato. I feel like it sounds very familiar. Did we talk about this before?
Nope, it was in Nintendo Direct.
Okay, that's probably why we talked about it before. Never played it.
So, Brotato is actually quite good. This is another one of those games, a lot like Vampire Survivors, right? Mm-hmm. But it's more subdued, but also it has a lot more to it that makes it harder, in my opinion.
Okay.
So with Brotato, you like start out as a like in the center of this like kind of small box map. You can't like go too far. It's like a very closed off map. It's very small. It's very much a horde based shooter, that sort of deal. It's auto like Vampire Survivor is, but essentially the way it works is at the beginning you pick your character type. And you pick the weapon for said character, and you go in, and then it's a horde-based shooter, and it's auto-plays itself. You can tell it not to, and you can actually play it like a twin-stick shooter, but it's not really designed to be that way. At the end of every wave, you then get to pick your like perk and your next weapon. You can hold up to 6 weapons unless you're playing specific characters, which can hold up to 12. I'm not sure if there's more that can be held by other characters. But essentially, you try to build your character and your class around certain things. So like you may pick like a perk that or like an ability or an item or something, but that item does something like it raises your weapon output damage, but it lowers your melee damage. So now you really can't make a melee build because you're actually in the negative for your melee damage. So you're not going to be doing much melee damage if you take melee weapons. So you really need to stick to being ranged now. And it's one of those games where everything kind of has to be planned out as you're doing it. And as you kill enemies in the horde like thing, they drop money, which you then collect while in that wave, and then when you move on to the next wave, you can buy those abilities, you can buy those perks. You get like 5 to choose from or something like that. Might be 4 or less, but you get those, and kind of like a video poker game, where like you can be like, hold my card, for the next hand or whatever. You can actually tell the game to hold like an ability by locking it, and then your next wave, once you complete that ability will still be there, but the other ones will be replaced. And you can then, like, if you didn't have enough points or you weren't sure if it was going to be good for your build or whatever, you can then purchase it in the next wave, or so on and so forth. And it's like a lot of planning to get to where you need to be, but the actual gameplay is really fun, so it doesn't really matter. Very good game. Very, very good game from what I have played so far. It's very simple, but much like Vampire Survivor, it is difficult to like master. Yeah, exactly. There's all sorts of different ways you can play. You can use laser guns, you can use pistols, you can use axes, you can like put a chain collar around your neck and then run it straight into the enemies and do damage to them that way. You can use machine guns, you can use rocket launchers, you can use all these different kind of items, like wands and stuff like that. It's very, very good. The reason why I picked it up is because it officially released, like its 1.0 version, and it was also went on sale during the Steam Summer Sale, which I'll talk to you about in a minute, because first we're going to talk about the AEW game that I've waited 3 years to play. All right, so AEW Fight Forever. As I've mentioned before, I really like AEW wrestling and just wrestling in general. I like watching all different kinds of wrestling, and I've watched AEW since it began, and I've really enjoyed it. And they've had some absolutely batshit matches and stuff like that in the show itself and in their pay-per-views. And they have translated some of those matches to this game. They've also translated kind of like the very tongue-in-cheek feeling to the single-player mode of this game, because the single-player mode uses a create a character where you like take on the factions that you've learned about in the actual TV show. So you take on people like Death Triangle, which are these 3 guys that have created a faction that's like very like deadly people. Like they will just fucking kill you essentially because of their moves. And you'll take on other factions like Best Friends, which is just like these goofy comedy wrestlers that, work together with each other and whatnot. And those things translate over to the video game itself. And in the Road to the Elite mode, when you play that, your character that you create then gets to interact with all of these characters that you've seen on the show itself. And it's very arcadey, where it's like one of my favorite things about this game is the fact that the people that have the belts on the show, for the most part right now, it's not fully updated because they couldn't get everyone into the game that they wanted to at the time, because of like just time constraints essentially, because people are going here, going there, going everywhere when it comes to AEW. Like they'll go to other house shows, they'll go overseas, they'll do this, that, and the other, as well as be here in the States, and several of them live in like different countries and whatnot. So because of that, there was some time constraints with some of the wrestlers, so they're not here. But that doesn't matter. One of the really cool things about this game, in my opinion, is that many of the characters who would have certain belts in the show have them in the game. And if you beat them in a match for the belt, you then get that belt. Like, whatever character you're playing as gets that belt. So you could technically play as, like, a character that has never had a chance to get, a world title shot or whatever, and win the world title from, like, the heavyweight world championship current belt holder. And then you could take the TNT title and take the TBS title and take every title. And there's actually like a legitimate intro for when your character comes out if they have all of the belts and they're like wearing them and like carrying them in their arms, and they have like 5 or 6 belts just around their waist as they're walking down the ramp.
That's
and
pretty great.
You can do that, and it's really cool that that's like an option. There's also some of the more extreme matches that AEW has had in the past. So AEW is kind of known for their blood and guts, so much so. Actually, that's going to come back into play in just a minute. So much so that this game almost got an M rating, which is kind of what took so long for them to release it, because the ESRB wanted to make this an M-rated game for the longest time because of the amount of blood and gore in this game. Okay. But they calmed it down, and essentially the only thing that makes you bleed now, which you still can bleed a lot, is if you get dropped into thumbtacks or hit with like a barbed wire baseball bat or that sort of thing. So you still can bleed, but the blood doesn't stay on screen for as long as it initially was going to. You know, the cuts and everything kind of heal up pretty quickly, but you still see the like blood coming out of them and that sort of thing. And it's really neat. So, there is a very specific and well-known match in AEW. It was the exploding barbed wire death match.
Okay.
They were in a ring. Instead of ring ropes, it was covered in barbed wire. So all the ropes were replaced with barbed wire. They were like barbed wire tables and this, that, and the other. Just barbed wire everything, essentially. And the ring was rigged to explode in a certain amount of time if they didn't finish the match in that amount of time. Now, granted, that got botched in the actual pay-per-view because the pyrotechnics people messed with it the last second, and several things did not go off. But the way it was supposed to be initially was done in the game, where like the ring just straight up explodes, and the one that's closest to the edge of the ring, you know, they take the most damage when you're playing the game, essentially. I have a few issues with this game. Content is one of my big issues. We have like 50 wrestlers, which is really good, but there are a lot of wrestlers missing that are currently on the roster that are very important to current plot lines that are going on right now. And
do you think it's because of the amount of time it took to develop this? I don't know how new these wrestlers are.
So I have a few theories. I would say that would be one of them if several that were in the show since the beginning were not in here. And there's several that aren't in here. And there's several that are in here that haven't been on the show in a while. There's even one that's on the in the game that is now in WWE and isn't even in AEW anymore.
Oh, weird.
So, well, they had the license for him, and he was just like, yeah, sure, fuck it, do it. So they were allowed to just release him because they already had paid for the licensing fees and everything. So they were already allowed to do that because the game's been in development for that long, and he's only been in WWE for like a year. And this game's been in development for 3. So.
Yeah, so it's probably more of a licensing issue than I would think.
I do want to say that is probably the case, but there's some like very standout people that are not in this game that have been in AEW since the beginning. And that's kind of, it's a little off-putting. And then there's some that haven't been in AEW since the beginning that are in the game. So it's a little bit of a mixed bag. I don't know exactly what the deal is, but
yeah. I mean, it might be maybe when they started they didn't include the licensing for video games kind of thing in their contracts. And then, you know, subsequently, you know, obviously as it grew up and got bigger, like maybe they wised up to the fact that they may want to do something like that.
That's possible.
And, maybe just kind of like a little bit more of that kind of growing pains kind of thing, you know, starting from something small to something bigger. I don't know. I'm sure there's lots of possible theories for it.
But. Yeah. No, that's all very plausible and very possible for the reason as to why this happened. It's just some of the ones I would like to be in this game are not, and it's kind of upsetting. But Other than that, the only real problem I have with this game is it's a little rough around the edges. There's definitely some glitches here and there. I have fallen through the ring before, and it was really funny, but I had to restart the whole match because of it. But it's not that bad because matches only typically last about 3 to 5 minutes, when you're playing against AI or whatever. So it's not that big a deal. So it's whatever. It's not a big deal. My real problem is they've done so much stuff in AEW. Like, they've done Texas Tornado tag matches. They've done, ladder matches that are, they have specific themes around them. And they've done matches they even had, in the first AEW thing ever, they had a Cracker Barrel themed match.
Okay.
Where it was crazy. It was very weird. They've had all these theme matches, and they've had this one really big theme match that they've done every year that's called Blood and Guts. Uh-huh. And that match is where you're locked in a cage, 10 people versus 10 people on each side of 2 rings. 10 in one ring, 10 in the other ring. And they just fight each other until someone gives up. There's no rope breaks, there's no real pinfall attempts or anything like that. It's just you beat the shit out of each other until you are near death and someone finally gives up. And it's a very well-known AEW match type. They've built entire events around it, essentially, and it's not in the game. Okay. And it's kind of a little. That's not cool. That kind of sucks. So I don't know. I really don't have an issue with the game aside from lack of content, match type content and modes, as well as the little glitches here and there. Otherwise, the gameplay is very, very, very easy to pick up and play. You mentioned before when we were before we started the podcast that it looked like the WWF No Mercy games, that sort of thing from the N64, and that is done by design. It is made that way 100% on purpose. It's very easy to pick up and play. It's harder to master, but essentially you can learn the controls in an hour or two with no problem whatsoever. I mean, you can play the game and have no issues with it whatsoever in the first 5 minutes, but fully learning it would take you an hour or two. But it's very easy to pick up and play. It's very fun, but every wrestler feels distinct. Every wrestler feels like their counterpart to the TV show, to AEW in general. And that's really, really good because you have wrestlers that are high flyers. They're people that they'll be doing backflips off ropes and shit like that, diving out to the stands and smashing people into the guardrails, that surround the fans, essentially. That you have those people here and their style is translated here. You have the strong style people and their style is translated here. You have there's even a person in AEW whose name is Orange Cassidy, and his whole gimmick is he will actually put his hands inside of his pockets and still wrestle his opponents, and most of the time beat them, because he just does not give a fuck. That's his. It's sloth style, but taken to the max, essentially. And that is here as well. You can actually even put your hands in your pockets and then wrestle people in AEW Fight Forever as Orange Cassidy. There's Create a Wrestler, but again, this kind of goes back to the whole content lacking thing that I talked about. It is not super in-depth. There's not really a whole lot you can do with it, but it is there enough that you can get them to announce names, and there's a good amount of names there. There's 500 different moves, so you can completely build your wrestler from the ground up move-wise.
Oh, that's great.
But costumes and the way the costumes work, and the way headgear works or jackets work, and so on and so forth. There's a lot of things there left to be desired, and the way you can put on accessories and things. There's only so many slots. There's only so many hairstyles, and it's not really a huge amount. And that goes back to that lacking of content that I talked about. But in general, the thing that this game comes down to at the end of the day is it's just fun. It's really fun to play. I'm happy because I enjoy the game every single time I play it, but also I'm still upset because with that lack of content, I don't feel the need to play it a lot, because I feel like if I did, then I would really realize just how much the content is lacking. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Now, there are plans to support this throughout the years to come, because they're not going to do like WWE does, where WWE releases a new game every year, similar to like, Madden does or NBA does. That's what WWE does. But they're planning to just build onto this game throughout the years to come. So they've already talked about. So they've already talked about like all the actual wrestlers have actually been answering questions online as well, which is very good. So Kenny Omega, which is I'm a really big fan of, his someone had mentioned, there's a lot of problems in this game. Here are my problems in general, even though I'm enjoying it. And he reached out to them, and he actually gave a comment. This person said, "I'm having fun with AEW Fight Forever, but it needs a lot of work. I want this to be an official feedback thread. If you've played or are currently playing, please leave your comment below on your thoughts." And then he tagged all the wrestlers and all the people that worked on it. So Kenny Omega is a huge fighting game fan. He's taken place in Evo. He's been to Evo and played Street Fighter there. He has moves that are named after Street Fighter attacks in the game. He's a huge gaming fan in general, just a big nerd in general. So his response, because he's working on this game directly with Yuke's, who made this, is, "As someone who plays a ton of fighting games and FPSs, I always encourage fixes and rebalances when situations like these turn up. There will be continued support for this game, so all the feedback and suggestions that you have are great. Thank you very much." And that's essentially where he kind of left it for right now. But in general, it seems like people are actually leaving good feedback and are enjoying the game. It's nothing groundbreaking. It's nothing super amazing. I would probably recommend buying it on a sale, which I will get to in a minute.
Okay.
But if you're a big fan of AEW, I think you could buy it right now and still really, really enjoy your time with it. So there's that. There have been a few other things that were mentioned in the same thread. Someone stated that they wanted the Acclaimed, who is huge in AEW and massively over right now and have been over for 2 years. They said, "I was so disappointed when I found out the Acclaim weren't in the game. I'm going to not even pick up my pre-order." And the Acclaim actually directly responded back to them and was like, "Hold up, don't do that yet. We literally, last month, did all the character work for our characters. They weren't able to be put in the game, but they will be in the future, in the near future. So please stay tuned for that, and think about before you cancel your pre-order. If you still want to, that's fine, but we will be in the game at some point in the near future." So,
okay, that's nice.
So there's that. I really like it. I have a lot of fun with it. It's very over the top, super arcadey, while still feeling like every wrestler that you play as plays very differently, but it's all still done in a very arcadey and fun fashion. So I like it. I like it a lot, actually. Now, I had mentioned sales, and that was a conversation I actually wanted to have with you.
Yeah.
I mentioned before, the Steam sale is going on right now.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I know you don't pay a lot of attention to Steam and its sales and that sort of thing, obviously, because you have no reason to.
Mm-hmm.
But several people have been pointing out a lot lately that honestly, the Steam sales lately, over the last 2 years or so, have kind of been garbage. And I feel the same way. Which brings me to my next point. I think the sales on console, legitimately, on Nintendo Switch, on PlayStation, on Xbox, have been way better than the Steam sales over the last year. I don't know when it started happening, but I've noticed that there have been massive discounts on new games digitally on the Xbox, on the PlayStation 5, on the Nintendo Switch over the last few years. It just kind of came out of nowhere because I'd always mentioned how Steam sales are great because it gives you a chance to buy a whole lot of games or buy games that are normally a lot of money at a discounted price. But now I like look at them and I'm like, damn, Nintendo's got a really good sale going on right now. Now, obviously, it's not always for their first-party titles. In fact, it's almost never for their first-party titles. But they do have some really
first-party titles. I think it just ended. Yeah, then everything was like $40.
Yeah. I was gonna say it's never like really good for their first. Yeah, exactly. Like you'll see some of their third-party titles that are actually like really good titles for like fucking $6-7. We've talked about that before. Like I think you said you got the South Park game for like fucking $5.
Oh yeah, Ubisoft is notorious for dropping their shit down to like.
So are like indie titles on Switch, and I guess that's all I was going to talk about was I feel like consoles are doing better and better lately when it comes to actually putting things on sale and having good sales. And I was wondering if you had noticed that also, because it just kind of came out of nowhere. But now we're having like huge sales on consoles that are like on par, if not better, than like the Steam sales I used to talk about back in the day.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I think some of it comes along with the marketplace for consoles has changed a lot. Mm-hmm. I mean, there used to be a lot of. I mean, I would say there used to be a lot of rumors that they didn't really market the online console game prices as aggressively because they didn't want to piss off retailers.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of it is, I mean, GameStop is basically collapsing. And for everyone else, it's kind of like a secondary part of their business. So you'll see some sales will run in tandem. It's like, especially for the Nintendo stuff. Be like, it'll be $40 online or in store or whatever, and that's that's reasonable for that. But I think with a lot of the other stuff, I think they've gotten more open about letting people run sales whenever they want.
Yes, because you'll see sales like every week, for these titles on Switch and PlayStation. Like every week, you'll see some good sales.
And that was unheard of. I mean, you think about even back to, I know it's been a long time, but you think back to, say, like, Xbox and PlayStation 3 and, the Wii, that kind of like era. Like that was kind of unheard of. I mean, you maybe would have very rare sales, but if they would more be like permanent kind of like markdowns as opposed to like sales. But now like, you'll see weekly sales in like all of them, or kind of like Catch-21s, or like Xbox will do their sales like, hey, these games are coming off of Game Pass, pick these up at a cheap price before you have to start paying.
So I actually have a question about this. This brings me to my next point.
Yeah,
you've probably seen lately, with the announcement of new games that are coming out, them moving away from even releasing physical versions of games, period. Even big game titles. Do you think their slow, gradual move towards doing massive sales on consoles, at least, was kind of a way to get people to accept the all digital future that it seems that more and more console manufacturers are wanting to head towards?
Yes and no. I do agree. It's probably to get people more accepting.
Like get them to accept it. It's essentially they're grooming them into accepting it.
Yeah, and you think about it. We've talked about this before a couple times. For games like after a couple months, they don't print new games anymore. Like they're just kind of, they do their first run, they run their course, they do so many per run, and that's it. They don't kind of keep them out in perpetuity.
Yeah.
So people can buy them forever. So you think about something that, may have been, a very niche seller on a lot of these systems.
Pretty much everything by Atlas.
Yeah.
Except for Persona.
Yeah, but, but anything really, comes out, kind of runs its course, and then, it's kind of more cycled into the kind of the digital marketplace at that point. And then I think at that point it becomes even more viable to kind of do that kind of ebb and flow of the sale prices.
I definitely agree about that.
Yeah, and like I said, Ubisoft is incredibly aggressive with them. I would say other ones that are very aggressive, WB, very aggressive with their sale prices.
The Lego games are always on sale.
Yep, they are always on sale. There's one more like I would say, just kind of some of the tried and true like third parties like
Capcom has big sales too. Yep. Capcom regular, huge sales. Yeah.
Yeah. So you see a lot of it. A lot of it just kind of like every once in a while. There's, I mean, I have a bunch of things on my wish list for Capcom and Square Enix, and then I just keep them there and just kind of for that rainy day when I have that opening. It's like I know I'm gonna want to play this. Let me pick this up, or I know there's this time period coming up where I'm gonna have time to play this kind of game, and this is what I want to fill it. So let me pick it up in advance. So that's always nice. And I think that's kind of another thing that's evolved too, like kind of the wish lists and notification stuff has gotten a much more advanced. So every time something goes on sale, I get a notification like, hey, this game on your wish list is on sale now. Do you want to check it out? I'm like, oh yeah, I'll take a look and see.
Yeah.
I'm not doing it right now, but hey, I'm glad to know it's there. So
a few other questions and thoughts on the whole subject. So my friend a few months back was trying to decide if he wanted to get why can't I think of the name of it? Hold on, my brain's a little broken at the moment. Oh, I remember. If he wanted to buy Mario Kart 8 on Switch, digitally or physically. And his reasoning was, and I think I've had the same reasoning without even noticing it sometimes. I kind of just want to take this everywhere without the hassle of having to deal with game carts. It's a game that I will always pick up and play. So, like, it makes the most sense to buy it digitally.
Yeah.
Do you feel that way about some games as well?
Well, I mean, that's basically why I have transitioned to digital only on my handhelds, which really is the Switch. But I was doing it on the 3DS before that. Because especially with, any system that's portable, it's nice to have that stuff always available.
Yeah, so definitely.
I don't like switching cartridges in and out. I like to just kind of have everything available, on a whim. And it's nice to be able to do that. So, yeah, I 100% agree.
Yeah, I was thinking that too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. Because there's like a few games that's like I look at right now and I'm like, damn, I think I would rather have this digitally than I would ever want it physically. Most of it comes down to like like Mario Kart, Mario Party, that sort of thing. Because it's like a lot of those really need to
games.
Yeah, Pokemon. I feel the same way. Yep. I just got a few months back Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild, both digital. I originally had Breath of the Wild physical, but I got rid of it. Like Splatoon. Splatoon is like a pretty much digital-centric game in the first place, so it's like, why the fuck do I need that physically?
Yeah, when you have the whim to play it, you don't want to be like, where's the cartridge? Where's this? Or like a new event's coming up, like, oh, hey, it's a cool new, Splatfest or whatever. You don't want to be like, oh, where's my cartridge? Let me pull it out. You just want to be like, let me flip to it.
Exactly. That is exactly how I feel. Yeah, I look at all of my digital Switch games, which is all of my Switch games. I think I own one physical Switch game at this point in time, and that's it. And that was because, personally, I really like buying the dual packs of Pokemon games, and I have Diamond and Pearl. Like, I didn't even get it for Arceus or Scarlet and Violet, even though I did get both those games. But yeah, looking at the stuff that I have on my Switch, I'm like, yeah, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, that makes a lot of sense. Like I've got things like hold on, Smash Brothers, Arceus, Mario Odyssey. Shield's a physical game also. Yep. The Zelda games, Animal Crossing, one of the ones I think makes the most amount of sense to just get digitally instead. The new Zelda games, Splatoon 3. And like I look at all these and I'm like, those, when I think about them, that's a digital game. Like that's not a game that I think about and I'm like, oh yeah, physical copy. It's just like whatever. And on my handhelds that makes sense. But then I turn around and I have like thousands of digital games on my PlayStation. And I'm just like, why do I have those digital? What made me buy them digital? And that's why I brought up the whole, they've been having really good sales on Sony and on Microsoft digitally. So much so that I just find it easier to pick those up digitally now, games on there in general.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it makes a ton of sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm 100% behind you on that thought. But I've been on that train for a little while. As I said, I do really enjoy having, my portable stuff all digitally. But it's just it's nice to just kind of have it, not have to fuck around and find your cartridges. And I mean, even with my 3DS, I do have like some legacy cartridge stuff because 3DS didn't launch with downloadable games, if you remember.
I do remember that.
They didn't
like Street Fighter.
A year or two. Yep.
Street Fighter was not digital.
Yeah, it did come out eventually digital, but not for. I think the first one was like it was something like New Super Mario Brothers 2 or something. It was a ways in. So, eventually,
I'm gonna look that up now. First digital 3DS game. Yeah.
Was that right?
It was New Super Mario Brothers 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My memory has not failed yet. Yeah, but I mean that was ways into the system coming out.
Oh, you know what? It makes sense. Remember, Super Mario Brothers 2 was built around the coin gimmick, and it was one of the first gold coin games where you earned gold coins on your Nintendo account when you bought it digitally.
Oh.
Yep.
So, but yeah, and kind of when that started, that's kind of when I was like, oh yeah, I love having these kind of things digitally. It's it's nice to be able to have it. I don't have to mess around with the cartridges. But now, like because of that, because it's so late into it, I still do kind of have a nice pile of 3DS games that are not digital, and I didn't upgrade them. So every once in a while, I have to go back through and be like, oh, I need a Pokemon from Pokemon X. Let me go find that cartridge and dig it out and get what I need and swap it out and get something else. And yeah, just kind of more of a process. I like it how it is on the Switch now. I'll be like, oh, I want to grab something in Arceus fast. Let me just boot it up. Or, oh, I got, friends over and we're going to play the Jackbox games. Let me boot up one of those fast. Fucking around with cartridges, just kind of everything's at your whim and you don't have to look around for it. So, and also I got myself a terabyte card for my Switch. So it's really not lacking on space at the moment. Although I am already starting to get to the point where, I'm still a couple 100 gigabytes away, but at least close enough that I'm starting to contemplate, like, if I have to lose something, what would be the first thing that I lose? And it's kind of a tough decision. Like, what would I be willing to scrap? But there's a couple 20 gigabyte games, and I feel like those would be kind of the first ones that I reach towards. Like, as much as I love BioShock Infinite, I don't love it enough that
no need for it. A
20 gigabyte.
Yeah.
And then that's also something that's scary about, say, like the Metal Gear Solid collection, because that's, I think, 30 gigabytes. And then there's also an optional 30 gigabyte download for bonus videos.
Yikes.
And I'm like, that's a lot of gigabytes. So it's like, have you guys heard of compression? I don't know. It doesn't sound like it. But yeah, it's still kind of, I guess if it's all three together.
I will probably get that, to be completely honest, for Steam. So Steam Deck.
Yeah, and it's fair. It's a good set to have. Even I won't lie, I'm still contemplating it. I definitely haven't ruled it out, especially if it goes on sale at some point. So, but yeah, no, there is plenty of things, and those are games that you'd be like, oh yeah, it's great having these old things on here. And I think that's kind of one of the things, that's great about these kind of handhelds now, is it does give you access to a lot of the older library stuff. It's nice to have it available. So, because it gives you the ability, even, I would say, to be like, oh, I don't even have to pull out my old system now. Like, I have this right here. Like, I just downloaded Pikmin 1 and 2. Well, I don't have to pull out my GameCube or my Wii for it anymore. It's on my Switch. It's nice.
Sure.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's it. I don't know. Do you have any other thoughts on the thing?
No, I think I'm good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anything else you want to talk about otherwise?
No, I don't think so, actually.
All right.
I think I'm good, to be completely honest.
Yeah, let's wrap it up.
All right.
Well, thank you everyone for listening to us tonight. Don't forget you can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, Google, Amazon, wherever you get your podcasts. And you can check out our website, game-crunch.com, for all of our episodes. They're all available there. And if you want to reach out to us, you can send us an email, gamecrunchcast@gmail.com, or find us on Facebook or Twitter. Brandon.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. Any final thoughts?
Nope. I think I'm good.
All right. Well, that said, my name is Mike Anastasia. You can find me online. I'm Clash Penguin there, or on your favorite gaming console. And until next week, game on.
Game on.
There it is.
There it
Another episode.
Another episode in the bag.
524.
Holy shit.
Yep.
That is crazy.
I know. It's still wild. Still wild. It still feels like, oh, did I forget like 100 in there or something? Did I have to skip all the 400s? I don't remember. Nope, they're all there. All there.
That doesn't even count when we did 3, does it?
When it counts,
does it?
When it counts
does that 500 count that, or does
count? No, count what though? That's what I don't understand.
Does our 500 episodes also count when we were Order 333?
Yes.
Okay.
Does.
All right.
So
what about when we did the show for the Shadows of the Damned? Shadows of the Damned. Listen to me. I don't even fucking remember what they called it.
Shadows of the Eternals.
Yeah, there you go. That's the one. Yeah, remember when we did their podcast for them?
No, I don't think it would count that one.
Okay.
Yeah, does not count that one.
Okay.
Just our official episodes.
I see.